All was not lost for the Wizards, a team that lost Game 1 Saturday in the best-of-7 opening round series, the kind of game Washington will learn and make the necessary tweaks for Tuesday's Game 2. The narrative during Washington's regular was how uneven the team played, how the Wizards played with unity during John Wall's injury absence. It's foolish to suggest the Wizards are better without Wall. Without him Saturday, the Wizards likely would have been blown out. With Wall getting into the lane and distributing the basketball, the Wizards were dangerous. In the end, this game came down to the fourth quarter, as they often do in the playoffs, and Wall was contained. There was no one else stepping up as Wall didn't produce a basket in the fourth until there were 25 seconds remaining. He had only one assist in the final period after he carved up to the Raptors. Wall led his team with 23 points, but the key number was the 114-106 final score. Credit the Raptors for winning their first Game 1 of a postseason series in franchise history, but Washington will be better because it must be better. Wall produced 15 of his team's 29 assists. Rapper Drake, wearing a Humboldt Broncos jersey, raises his arms in the final seconds of game action, with Toronto Raptors winning an Eastern Conference playoff Game 1 against Washington Wizards at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Kyle Lowry during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. John Wall at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Kyle Lowry during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. Marcin Gortat at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Kyle Lowry during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. Marcin Gortat at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Rapper Drake wears a Humboldt Broncos jersey while cheering on Toronto Raptors during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Og Anunoby during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. John Wall at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Og Anunoby during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. John Wall at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Og Anunoby during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. John Wall at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Og Anunoby during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. John Wall at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Og Anunoby during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards. John Wall at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Kyle Lowry during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 second half action against Washington Wizards at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors head coach Dwayne Casey during Eastern in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Jonas Valanciunas during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 first half action against Washington Wizards at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Serge Ibaka during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 first half action against Washington Wizards at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Serge Ibaka during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 first-half action against Washington Wizards at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Toronto Raptors Jonas Valanciunas during Eastern Conference Playoff Game 1 first-half action against Washington Wizards at the Air Canada in Toronto, ONT, on Saturday, April 14, 2018. Ernest Dorasuk, Toronto Sun, Post-Media Network. Bradley Beal needs to be better. Washington's bench must extract more and the Wizards cannot endure a 4-minute-long scoring drought that compromised its fourth-quarter performance. The turning point may have been a flagrant foul. Mike Scott was whistled in the final period on a night when the game's officials, Scott Foster, Tony Brothers and Pat Frayer, did a terrific job. Outside of a block against Delon Wright, which probably should have been a charge, the crew was spot on. As Wall goes, so go the Wizards. He went 1 of 5 in the fourth, the same period when Beal went 1 of 3. Washington allowed Toronto to shoot 50% in the fourth quarter, a number that cannot be repeated Tuesday. The Wizards face the real possibility of heading back home trailing 2-0 in the series. The start wasn't ideal for the Wizards, but they did close out the opening period on a decent note, sparked by an 8-0 run that cut Toronto's lead, which at one point was as much as 10 points. After one period, Washington was trailing 28-23, its two main bigs each picking up 2 fouls. What kept the Wizards in the game was Toronto's inability to protect the basketball, one of the areas that plagued the Raptors' play in the final weeks of the regular. With Wall getting into the lane too easily, it was just a matter of time before Washington would begin to take a lead. Washington matched Toronto's three-point shooting and slowly the game's pace would favor the Wizards. At the break, Washington was leading 59-55. The Wizards were fortunate in that the Raptors somehow forgot about Jonas Valanciunas, who was aggressive early but then had few touches. Considering Washington was trailing 14-4 barely 4 minutes into the game, the way the Wizards fought back does speak to their resilience. For whatever reason, and there have been many theories floated ranging from team chemistry, Washington had a disappointing regular to fall to the number 8 seed. There's talent, and no one can argue that point, but consistency has been elusive. The Raptors jumped on the Wizards at the start of the game and at the start of the second half. What Washington couldn't do at the start of the third quarter was contain Lowry and DeRozan, who were each aggressive in attacking the rim. Lowry took a charge on Wall on one possession, getting right up on Beal on another as Toronto's backcourt began to outplay its counterpart. A Wall 3, his third of the game, tied the game, 70-70. A DeRozan 3 gave him 10 points in the period as Toronto led, 75-72. The game was physical with the ball moving, each team making shots from distance. It was tied, 75-75, with 4:36 left in the third quarter. Wall's 13th assist of the game led to a Beal 3-ball, his first from distance, as Washington would retake the lead, 80-79. The period ended with the Raptors leading, 86-85. All things considered, the Wizards found themselves in a good position heading into the fourth quarter. Washington went small. 2 minutes into the period, Scott fouled Lowry, a hard foul the game no longer tolerates. Following a review, it was ruled a flagrant one, which turned into a 4-point play made worse when C.J. Miles buried an open look from distance, a 7-0 run that forced Washington to call a timeout. Once again, the Wizards responded, this time with a 5-0 run. Despite all the shots being made, points scored, it had the feel of a game where the first team to play defense for an extended stretch would likely prevail. Both teams were playing hard, but it was the Raptors who were diving for loose balls. On a hustle play by the Raptors, Washington lost track of Miles on the perimeter as the Raptors would lead by 7 following the veteran make from distance. It increased to 9 as Washington had a tough time creating good looks in the face of Toronto's defense, which was more physical than at any point during the night. Washington also got sloppy with the basketball, the Wizards unable to score a point in roughly 4 minutes. With 4:19 left, the Wizards were trailing, 106-97. A few seconds later, Markieff Morris left the game favoring his left ankle. He re-entered as Washington went small to pick up the pace. It was to no avail. Washington simply could not match Toronto's intensity and desperation on defense, and with Wall no longer in rhythm, the Wizards' offense disappeared. Big's foul trouble for Wiz. There's nothing more routine in basketball than the opening tap. The ball goes up by a game official and two centers try to use the leverage and tops to control the game's opening possession. There was nothing normal about the Game 1 tap, one of those seldom-seen sequences that resulted in a foul called to Wizards center Marcin Gortat. It set the tone for the veteran big, a key piece for Washington when HES rolling to the basket and finishing at the rim, playing physical, defending and rebounding and setting hard screens. Gortat's first foul would soon increase to 2 and a quick hook from head coach Scott Brooks. Ian Mahinmi entered for Gortat, but Mahinmi also became foul-prone, including an offensive foul on a moving screen. It was the kind of start for Gortat and the Wizards, who allowed the Raptors to go on a 12-0 run. With Washington's primary bigs on the bench, the Wizards went small with Markieff Morris, who starts at power forward, asked to defend Jonas Valanciunas with reserve Mike Scott matched up against Serge Ibaka. With 2:18 left in the opening half, Gortat picked up his third foul after he got his shot attempt at the rim blocked by Valanciunas. Gortat ended Game 1 with a -6 rating, Mahinmi a -4.